Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about a potential spin-off for Superman Lois. So if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos later this year. Okay, so apologies for the lack of uploads in the last week or so since Superman Lois finished. I've just taken a mini break, but I'm going to be back uploading plenty of videos, hopefully daily from now on, to do with the DCU, Superman, Supergirl, but also still got some Superman Lois content to cover because there's been various interviews that have been released after the series finale, including what we're breaking down today. So we're talking all about Superman Lois and the potential for spin-offs, because we got some comments from two actors on the show, that being Tyler and Alex, who have commented on potential spin-offs. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into this. So we're breaking down this article from Screen Rant and it will be linked in the description below. So this is how the article goes. Tyler's comments about a Superman Lois spin-off have raised my hopes that a sequel series could be on the cards down the line, despite the DC show coming to an end sooner than previously planned. The season 4 ending provided an emotional conclusion to a stellar take on the Man of Steel, combining an iconic comic story with new heartwarming and heartbreaking moments. Though it's entirely possible that this is the last that we'll see of these specific versions of the characters, I can't help but hold out hope for more. Now obviously I agree with the writer of this article, because yes, I'm a massive Superman Lois fan. I'm really happy with how they ended the series finale. So in a way it would be a shame for them to continue and kind of continue what they ended, if you guys know what I mean. Like, it's just the perfect ending, so why would you continue, I guess is the way that I should phrase it. So let's go ahead and skip through this article and get to when Tyler is commenting before we get to Alex Garfin's. So this is how this section goes. While the Superman Lois ending concluding things on a very final note, the time skip in the series did leave a window open for a spin-off. So that's that huge chunk, that 30 plus years in between, because we saw a kind of younger looking old Clark and Lois, and then you go way into the future where Lois is about to die and when Clark's about to die as well. So you've got that gap in the middle that you can explore, Superman going into his older age and him basically passing the mantle of Superman over to his sons who are out there as Superboy, along with John Henry Irons passing the mantle eventually onto Natalie Fully to become the new Steel. So in a panel at the San Francisco Fan Expo recently, Tyler addressed the possibility of a spin-off and expressed interest in it, stating, and I quote, he would totally do animation, and joking, I don't have to put on the suit for that, right? While Tyler confirmed he was satisfied with the show's ending, he mentioned the great thing about the superhero genre and the multiverse is that there's always opportunities. So this is an interesting comment from Tyler, because he is still open to playing Superman at some point later down the line, but I think he recognizes with the end of Superman Lois and it being so perfect, there is not much point in him actually trying to push too much of that. But I like how open he is, and the fact that he points out he would totally do animation if there was a Superman Lois continuation. Now this is where I bring Smallville into this, because they're trying to do a Smallville animated series that continues on from the end of Smallville. So if that happens, I think this would set a good precedent for, say, a Superman Lois continuation in animated form, along with any other Arrowverse or DC shows that didn't get a proper ending, or they got a proper ending like Superman Lois, but their story continues. And obviously there's the possibility of seeing Tyler in future DCU projects if James Gunn wants to do crossovers and wants to get past actors involved. I can totally see James doing that down the line, but it's just not going to happen at the start of the DCU, because they're going to have to set up the new universe, introduce so many characters. So I think they're going to do an MCU and wait for when the time is right to introduce the multiverse properly and get other people involved. And then potentially you could see some Arrowverse people like Tyler's Superman or Grant's Flash show up in various films and TV shows. So we'll have to wait and see. But next up, let's talk about Alex Garfin's comments for a perfect follow-up Superman Lois series. So, in an interview with Screen Rant, Alex Garfin, who plays Jordan Kent on Superman Lois, discussed the ideas that he had come up with for a Superman Lois continuation, but also some unused season 5 pitches, and a concept he'd worked on regarding a spin-off starring Clark and Lois's 2 children, Jordan and Jonathan. Garfin's spin-off pitch focused around Jordan and Jonathan's future following their graduation from high school, with the actor explaining, and I quote, "Yeah, actually, I was coming up with an idea for a spin-off at one point where Jordan and Jonathan are finally going to go to college. The college turns out to be set up by the DoD. It's this place that the DoD is kind of keeping all these super kids prisoners. In a way, it's a lot like the Tag Harris storyline, but it went in a bit of a different direction in that it turns out that this is actually an old, outdated program from the Soviet era, and that they're keeping these kids almost like nuclear weapons because the Soviets still have theirs. And eventually they're fighting each other, but then they end up teaming up and realizing they were fighting other people's wars and toppling governments. It got really political and strange and kind of a little more global than Superman Lois, and I would love to make that show a reality one of these days. I really would. So there you have it. That is Alex Garfin's idea. And let's read what Screen Rant has to say before I break it down. So they say Garfin's idea makes sense given that Superman and Lois serves as an extended origin story of both the Superboys, which is very true, with Jonathan finally gaining powers of his own after years in Superman and Lois season 4. Since there is not a lot of time in the final season to show the duo coming into their own as a pair of superheroes who can lean on one another, this idea holds a lot of promise, particularly since it would allow for follow-ups like showing what happened to Natalie Irons after the end of the main events of season 4. So there you have it, that is what they had to say, and let's break this down bit by bit. So he came up with this spin-off. Now the spin-off at first, when you hear it, like he says, sounds a lot like that Tag Harris storyline, but he says the spin on the super kids prison, as you would call it, set up by the DoD, is that it would be a rival to the Russians who basically have their own version of this, and they're using these kids almost like an X-Men kind of mansion or X-Men school, but they're using it obviously to harness them in battle if they have to, and he describes it almost like nuclear weapons because it's like almost like a race between who has the more powerful superheroes, who has the more powerful metahumans and everything like that. And so that is his story. I think inherently it's interesting, although it does seem very familiar to Superman Lois fans just because of what we got with Tag, but in a way it's going in a little bit of a different direction that I think it would be acceptable if this were a spin-off. And I do think the strongest spin-off off of Superman Lois would be a Superboy show where you focus on the two of them, and Natalie would be a main character as well. So I could see it eventually happening down the line, but again, Elseworld stories, Elseworld shows, Elseworld films have to restart, and that's not going to be for now with the DCU and the way that James Gunn is currently setting things up. So this, if it ever happens, and I don't think it will happen, is going to be way down the line. And I do find it interesting how he says it gets very political. Obviously it does when, you know, it's involving two different nations who are very opposed to each other, and in this case he says it's strange and kind of a little more global, and it all ends with them teaming up and fighting back against those who control them. So what do you guys think of this? Do you think this would make a good spin-off? I think no matter what, a Superboy spin-off would definitely be welcomed by most fans out there, and this obviously has been thought about by Alex and whoever else has worked on this. I don't believe the spin-off has been officially pitched to DC or the CW or anyone out there, because I do think this is more just like Alex coming up with something by himself, thinking, okay, how can we capitalize on Superman Lois? How can we create a new story that obviously involves one of the most interesting parts of the show, which is definitely the rise of the Superboys. So that pretty much does it for this video, guys. If you did enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment. Obviously we're going to have lots more videos out. Again, we got a couple more Superman Lois videos to make, but you're going to start to see a lot of other comic book DC content in the next week or so as we kind of go away from the Arrowverse, because the Arrowverse is officially over now. So if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, and also subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. But for now, you can click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.